we start the formal proceedings, may I request all of you to close your eyes and pray to Almighty so that everything good will happen to all of us. Thank you so much and welcome back and very good evening to our speaker of the day, Professor Vasanthi Srinivasan and her able assistant Shweta along with her. Women Managers Forum leader, our managing committee member and executive director at Federal Bank, Ms. Shalini Warrior, Dr. Shobha Menon, other members of KMA, honorary secretary, senior vice president, members of other LMAs, students and invited guests. Good to see that we have a good attendance today in the beginning itself. By the time I finish, I'm sure we'll have a very rich crowd assembled here to listen to Madam Srinivasan. It is indeed very difficult, ma'am, to plan anything in these tough times. And thanks to the online platforms we have been pulling on, and KMA has been trying all options to keep our members engaged and provide them with meaningful deliberations and events of utility. As I said, this is the fourth event being organized by the Women Managers Forum of KMA as part of the annual theme of KMA, that is spearheading responsible management. We have treated, or rather we have stressed much on diversity and inclusion as one of the main focus areas of this KMA year. In this regard, Madam Shalini Warrior has been conceiving many programs under the aegis of the Women Managers Forum to help women folk in their businesses, professions, and in fact, personal lives too, to get on with the learning and innovation, to remain updated and stay ahead in these changing times. Second Thursday of every month has been earmarked for the Women Managers Forum event, and this month is the only exception till now, as we had a public holiday last week on the Thursday, that is last week. The KMA Women Managers Forum started off the year with a panel discussion in December with a very decorated panel of speakers leading a discussion on the topic, glass ceilings for women leaders, a myth or a reality. And thereafter, we had a masterclass on digital marketing led by a domain expert from Chennai, Ms. Vasanthi Srinivasan. That was in January. The third program was a chat session dwelling on a very useful and interesting topic, make your money work for you. Financial planning made easy. Here we had Ms. Shiny Sebastian, CEO of Affluence Financial Services, having a conversation with Mr. Ankur Maheshwari, the Chief Executive Officer of Equirus Wealth. Well, since we started our activities this year in November 2020, we have maintained a very steady momentum and continuously tried to engage our members with useful programs week after week. We have had 9 leader talk lecture sessions till now with celebrated leaders from the industry, government, and academia. We also had the top executive of our state, the Chief Secretary of Kerala, coming in, and also the Chairman of LIC, Mr. M.R. Kumar, addressing us during our inaugural session itself. Another feature of this year had been the StartCon sessions, a favorite of our program committee chair, past President S.R. Nair, an exclusively conceived panel discussion programs showcasing successful startup entrepreneurs to the KMA fold. We've had 4 such sessions till now, featuring some of the smart brains of Kerala who have broken into the big league. We had the last one of the series last week when we had 2 lady startup icons, Ms. Sonia Mohandas of Wafer Chip Techno Solutions and Ms. Ganga Raj of I Love 9 Months, sharing their stories on International Women's Day on March 8th. In addition to all these, there were 3 panel discussions with our own in-house experts and some of the industry stalwarts on contemporary topics of relevance. Last month, we've had a week-long intellectual feast in the form of the KMA Management Week celebrations, the KMA Virtual Run, the annual Management Students Convention, and the Professor M.V. Piley Memorial Lecture done along with the Management Week celebrations, that is starting from 19th of February. So unprecedented participation by our members. Thank you, Past President Rajmohan Nair is here for conducting that event with a lot of grandeur. The event saw many distinguished speakers addressing us, starting with the IMA President, Mr. Harshpati Singhania, Director General of IMA, Ms. Rekha Sethi, Professor Ranjan Banerjee of SP Jain Institute, Mumbai, Mr. D. Shivakumar of Aditya Birla Group, Dr. Saji Gobinath, the new Vice Chancellor of Kerala Digital University, Mr. Ajay Prasad of Taurus Investment Holdings, and leaders from multiple domains explaining the trends ahead for our student members, and also 3 of the startup heroes of our land sharing their success stories with us. Well, today we have the 4th event of this year, as I've said, from the KMA Women Managers Forum. A very useful session it is promising to be, from one of the maestros of organizational behavior and effective mentor-mentee relationships. Since the time the message went out regarding this event, I have received many personal messages from those who have either listened to her earlier or been her students at the IIM at some point in time earlier. Such is her impact on our audience and disciples. We are fortunate to have her today at this session, Professor Vasanthi Srinivasan. We had a glimpse of her during our annual national convention in 2018-19, and she had effectively set the tone for the event that year with that opening address at the convention. And she went to Guruvayur after that, as she rightly said. May I, on behalf of the Managing Committee at KMA and all present here, formally welcome Professor Vasanthi Srinivasan to this lecture session today. I also extend my hearty welcome to all the past presidents present here, members of the Managing Committee and Executive Committee, members of KMA and other LMAs, members of the Women Managers Forum, student members, members of the media, and all invited guests to this lecture session, which is about to begin. So without further ado, let me invite Dr. Shobha Menon, the member of the Women Managers Forum, to formally introduce the session, the speaker, and also take us through this session. We'll also have an interactive session after the talk led by Ms. Shalini Warrior. But now it is over to Dr. Shobha for introducing the speaker before Professor Vasanthi takes over the main screen. Over to you, Dr. Shobha. Thank you.
Thank you, President Madhav Chandran. A very good evening to all the KMA members present here and to all invited guests. Professor Vasanthi Srinivasan needs no introduction to KMA, as she has been an invited speaker at many KMA conferences and as President just mentioned. However, as per protocol, I have been assigned the duty of introducing Professor Vasanthi Srinivasan. Professor Vasanthi's core expertise is in the areas of organizational behavior and human relations management at IIM Bangalore, where she has been a faculty member for the last 20 years. She is a distinguished alumni of XLRI Jamshedpur and a fellow in management from IIM Bangalore. Prior to joining academics, she was in the industry for about 8 years. She was the ICCR Chair Professor of Corporate Responsibility and Governance at the HHL School of Management, Leipzig, Germany in 2012-13. She was also a British Council visiting scholar at the International Center for Corporate Social Responsibility at the Nottingham University Business School in 2017. She is an erudite scholar, having authored many publications in both national and international journals, her research areas being women on boards, business and human rights, and HRM in rapid growth context. Her MOOCs course on people management on the EDX platform was recognized among the top 20 courses for soft skills in 2018 by Business Insider. She also runs a website, www.teachcsr.com, which is intended to enable faculty in business schools teaching CSR. She is currently on the board of directors of Enable India and Fourth Wave Foundation. She was a member of the Uday Kota Committee on Corporate Governance set up by SEBI in 2017. She is also part of the working group on business and human rights under the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. Professor Vasanthi lives in Bangalore with her family. So today, Professor Vasanthi Srinivasan will speak to us on a very relevant topic, continuous learning and staying agile. Over to you, Professor.
Thanks, Shobha. And Shalini, I could not say no to you. Okay, so here I am, but I think all of you know that KMA is special. Yesterday, a friend of mine, I don't know if Pramod is here already, but he is a member of KMA. So Pramod said, I saw the notice that you were speaking, I said, yeah, KMA is special, so I find it difficult to say no to them. So here I am today and looking forward to this conversation. You want me to speak for what, 30 minutes? Would that be okay? Yeah? Okay, great. So it was interesting to listen to the range of topics that you've had in terms from the association. And what I also found particularly interesting is the spectrum of audiences that you were trying to actually reach out to, and in some way creating a learning process through the year. And it's interesting that despite all the challenges, the events that are available for learning over the last year have actually multiplied. Yeah. So if someone really wanted to learn, they cannot complain anymore that they don't have resources, because I've seen so many events happening online. In what is the focus of this discussion? Okay. And then as I was looking through, I find that there are several. I think both the sexes are equally kind of represented in the audience today. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus and nuance where it works gender agnostic and where it works gender specific. So let me set the context for today's presentation. And what I will do is, I think, Anjit, I should be able to do this, okay? Not an issue. I will manage this. So continuous learning and staying agile. And what we are going to do is, before even beginning the session, I'm just going to pause and request Shweta Govindan, who is here, to help us to go through collecting insights from your experiences. Okay. And Shweta will tell you how to do that. Shweta, I am stopping sharing. Please, you're also a co-host, so you can start the instructions.
Sure, Professor. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I'll be sharing a link to a website called menti.com. I've shared that on our chat. Let me just share the screen so that you can see how to participate through this. Is everyone able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so this is Mentimeter. You will have to, so you will get a code like this on this slide. I'm sorry for revealing the question so early, but you'll have to enter the code. I will provide that code as well on the chat. And once you enter the code, for instance,
So first, I think they need to go to menti.com, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So please pull out your mobiles, go to menti.com. And please enter this code.
6409689.
Please put it on the chat also, Shweta, so that it makes it easier for people.
Yes.
Are we good? Is anybody experiencing any difficulty? Some responses on the chat would be good. Are you comfortable? Yes.
Yeah, logging in. Yeah.
Great, great. So just enter that number that's there. Kindly please repeat the code.
6409689.
6409689. And then just submit it. And you have a question there. And the question is simply, what have you learned about yourself in the last 12 months? And and just enter. And we have given you 3 options, so just enter, okay?
And click submit. Yeah.
Yes, and then click submit. I hope everyone's been able to get. Awesome, great, great. So let's give them a minute because there are people still, I think, coming in. Wonderful.
Sure.
So what have you learned about yourself in the last 12 months? You're missing people, enhanced your discipline, moderation is the new mantra, no boundaries for learning, I've become more compassionate. Let's wait and see what else is coming. I've learned how to do COVID management. More of you, add on. Okay, a lot of new ideas are coming.
Love the one which says accept the uncertainty, Vasanthi.
Ah, correct. Accept the uncertainty. Actually, I'm waiting for the size of the font to increase. Hey, correct. Good. Now we are getting somewhere. Patience. It's just incredible how patience turns up each time and every time that I've done it, patience just stands out. Amazing, amazing. Shweta, is there a way to just increase the size of the font, please? Does it allow? Because that zooming used to be there. I'm not sure whether it, great. Little more, please.
Unfortunately, that's all, Professor.
That is all. Okay. So given my state of the eye, you will have to help me in reading that. So the first one clearly is patience, and I can read very clearly. After that, which are the ones, Shweta?
More me time, someone says.
More me time. Very good.
Wellness conscious.
Yes.
Multitasking, delegation to family.
Good.
The world is a beautiful place.
Yes.
More resilient, compassion.
Resilient, compassion. Very nice.
Missing people.
Great.
There's a
So
lot
the
of
one that really stands out is patience and spiritual. Because the way this Mentimeter works and what you are seeing there on the word cloud is really the size of the font indicates that a number of people have keyed in that. So clearly what stands out there is patience and spiritual. Yeah, quite interesting, quite interesting. Now that we've got a hang of this in the first question, let's go to the second question, Shweta.
You'll have to go back to that same slide, that same website, and you will get an option to enter for this particular question. You can find the code on top here. It's the same code.
Okay, so just think of your careers over the next 2 decades. And what do you think are the 2 or 3 events that will happen in your career as you begin to look at it? Good. What else will happen in your career? Clearly retirement, yes. New assignment, slow progress slowly and steadily. Okay.
Switch tracks.
Are all of you able to kind of get the next question? So I see retirement clearly standing out. What about the others? Any others there, Shweta, that's coming interesting?
More freelancing.
Very nice.
Virtual learning.
Okay.
uncertainty factors, skill
Yes.
upgrades.
Yes.
Someone has written travel. Yeah.
Travel, expansion of your role, of the job, of whatever. Okay.
Find my calling.
Find my calling. Very good. Okay. Interesting. Thank you, Shweta. You can stop sharing now. Thanks. And then we'll come back again when we are doing the next round. Okay. So I now want us to just spend a little bit of time on looking at what we have there, because that is kind of central to today's conversation. So I want to just hold up a mirror and get you to reflect on these two questions. Okay. I will share the slide deck with you after the presentation, and it will be available to you. So I've given also some references in case you want to read. First one, did you notice that we only tend to think of positive events, not negative ones? Yeah. So most of the things that came there were all positive. All the research over the next 20 years on what's going to happen to careers says that if you are working for a company, you will be laid off at least once. You'll become a contract employee at least once. You will have a younger boss for sure. And most importantly, you're going to be collaborating with a robo, and you will definitely learn one new skill. If you are an entrepreneur, you will close business, you will start new business, you will sell off businesses, but above all, when you venture, you might get yourself a new partner. Now, I want us to pause for a minute because welcome the world of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And through this session, what I'm going to do is hold up a mirror. If you like what you see in the mirror, do more of it. If you don't like, Control Alt Delete. Anyway, this is a 30-minute session, right? So nothing to worry. I was actually hosting a session with Bob Johansson, the futurist. And one of the interesting things was that he said, I'm unable to fathom why, when there is uncertainty all around us, people are seeking certainty. What there is it that you can get in an uncertain environment is just some clarity for yourself. That's all. Nobody can guarantee you certainty, and nobody has been able to guarantee us certainty for the last 1 year. And given what has been happening in terms of the COVID, the economy, and all of that, who can guarantee us certainty for the next 12 to 18 months? Nobody. Nobody. So in this kind of a world, when we are learning, what is it that we are seeking? A vision, however long it might be relevant. I'm not saying 3-year vision, 5-year vision, but definitely a vision for ourselves, because we need to influence others. Understanding, and this is probably the most needed one today, clarity, okay, at least for a short period of time, but above all, agility. A lot of people think agility is speed. No, not at all. Agility is the ability to experiment very quickly, fail, something goes wrong, pick up and go back to running again. Okay. So in some ways, this is the context for today's session. Now you might ask, what is it that is gender around this? Isn't this just another session that we are delivering? Yes and no. What do we know about the COVID and its impact on women? We know a lot. We know a lot. First is that the impact of COVID on women has been quite a disaster. It's put women's growth 25 years behind. As I speak to you today, I'm just coming out of a session of the UN South Asian Forum looking at gender equality. Every single data point that I have for India from different sources corroborates exactly what's happening world over. The first thing is that more women have dropped out of the workforce in the last 1 year, even though for India, consistently women have continued to drop out of the workforce as our economy has grown over the last 10 years. So there's a much deeper problem for India. But having said that, in the last 1 year, and I hear this from the words of the business leaders with whom I was there this morning. 3 companies actually said that earlier, women's attrition rates used to be 2 points lower. During the pandemic, it's 1 point higher than what men's attrition rate. Clear. Women are dropping out. Second one, women who are in the workplace, and there are plenty of you in this room who are working, that we always did double shift, or at least 1.5 shifts for sure. And now what has happened with work from home is that you're actually pulling 3 shifts. Third one, many of us live in homes that do not have that kind of flexibility to have 2 people, or maybe with 2 children, have enough of an access for all of us to have rooms of our own to be able to take calls and work professionally. In this context, the people who are getting hit are the women, because we know that in India, given the arranged marriage context, men are at least 3 to 5 years older than the women. So even in terms of their positions in the organization and their earning capacity, men on an average earn more salaries than women do. And therefore, if you have to prioritize on who has to get access, it's clearly the male and the children, no doubt at all. Okay. So in some ways, you can see how the family structure and the environment have come together to make it more and more difficult for women to stay in the workforce. So today, my request to all of you here as male allies, okay, and now you understand why I'm glad that there are so many men in this room, is just get the women to stay. Whether they are your sisters, whether they are your daughters-in-law, your nieces, whoever they may be, my call out to you is just stay in the workforce. That's it. Just let them be, because it looks like if women do not persist in their careers, and I will share with you my own research, is that in the next 10 years, the workplace is going to struggle, because you will see that women are the billion, the next billion. They are the consumers. Okay. So in some way, if you don't have women's representation in organizations, you are actually going to be suboptimal. Okay. So it is, I now see a business case for having women, which I didn't see earlier, because if more and more women drop out, technically it is going to become a business case. Yeah. So what do we know about women? And so there are 3 slides here, particularly calling out to the women here, just saying that women's careers are different from, significantly different from men's careers. Women's careers are about ebbs and flows of women's lives. Most women have had a career break. Okay, very few men in my research over and over have ever had a career break. And if they've had a career break, it's because they quit a job without getting another job, or they lost a job. Okay, but women's careers and their CVs are full of career breaks, which is normal. Even more interesting that if you look at it today, and there is so much of research available from across the world that several personal, social, organizational, and institutional factors impact women's careers. I want to spend just a minute, because many of you could be fathers to daughters. And that's the perspective, is that when we talk about sex, we are talking about male and female and the other. Okay? But gender is socially constructed. Gender is about the roles that are assigned to a man or a woman. Okay? So gendering is not biological. Sex is biological. Gendering is social. Okay? Gendering is about when we do not give equal opportunities to the girl and the boy. And in India, we know this. We know this. It's very common, right? Gendering is when we say that why. So if you look at educational investments, fortunately in your state, you don't have that problem. But in most other states, when people prioritize education, they prioritize for the boy child. They will sell a house to be able to raise money to give donation to school a boy. But when a girl wants that same education, the family will turn around and say, anyway, you're going to get married. Why don't you take an arts or do a science where you get on merit? Okay, not at all uncommon. Okay. Similarly, all the discussions about a girl are about what she can't do. Don't go out late in the evening, don't dress, don't laugh, don't do this, don't do this. Okay, so the way society rears a male child is with entitlement. Yeah, whatever you want, it'll be given to you. And it's interesting, over and over, studies in India have shown that in terms of health and nutrition, boys tend to get better. The last chicken or the last meat in the family is left for the boy. Okay, so not at all. And I'm sure if you look in our homes, we see this all the time, right? And if a person has had one first girl child, then we turn around and say, I hope the next one is a boy. Okay, so it just happens unconsciously in terms of the way gendering has happened. So gendering is sociological, while sex is biological. So what happens here is that it does disservice to two categories of people: the masculine woman and the feminine man. Both of them, either by society or by organizations, often they have to negotiate their spaces. What society loves is a masculine man, aggressive, dominant. Yeah. And it loves a feminine woman who's nurture, who's care, who doesn't protest, who doesn't ask for anything, who is this absolute epitome of womanhood. And now you can see that this gendering has consequences for organizations. So, to the women in the group, here's my call out that first, and therefore the rest of the presentation is anchored around this. So let me kind of elaborate a little bit more on this. So a lot of women get into work because they tend to perform very well in colleges and in higher education. A lot of our selection process is through exams. Over and over, there is data to show that women outperform the boys in terms of in terms of every single examination. So when you use that as a screening criteria, you automatically end up with women coming in the moment you have an exam to clear. Now, it's interesting that in the last 20 years, what has changed in India is that educational identity for the girl child is increasing. That girl child children have to be educated is clear. However, society has not ingrained in the girl a job or an employment identity. Yeah, and look at this. I was once studying proverbs in different languages. The proverb, it says a man who doesn't have a job is not a man. In several languages, manhood is associated with a job and an employment. Okay, so it's interesting that the notion that women have to be financially independent is not even a part of the vocabulary of growing children. Several years ago, a friend of mine, a child psychologist, did a study on asking young girls, what do you aspire to be when you grow up? 11-year-old. And she asked the same questions to the boy and the girl. Every single boy had something that they had in mind. I mean, whether they will become or not is a different question. I will become a doctor, I will become an engineer, I will become this, I will become that. And it's interesting that overwhelming 96% of the girls said, I will grow up and I want to be happy. Okay, nothing wrong. But the question is, they have never even been asked, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that for me, and that study really hit me, because if you are not even being asked, where is the question to articulate? Okay, where is an expression of a desire, an ambition, an aspiration? And this is probably where I think as male allies, fathers and brothers have a very big role to play. My own study has shown that girls who take up engineering in particular or science subjects, when we ask them saying, what made you choose science? It's invariably the father or the brother who was responsible for that child taking engineering as a career. So in a society like ours, I do not underestimate the role that men can play in transforming lives of women professionals. To the women, remember that we are in a gendered society. First, recognize it. Second one, each one of you is a champion of social change. I don't think you think about it yourselves that way, because I'm sure there has been somebody who's walked up to you and said, I want to be like you someday. Okay? When somebody is saying that, what does it mean? That they see you as a role model. But unfortunately, a lot of women don't see themselves as role models. How come? Yeah? Even more interesting, what do we know is needed to have more women in the workplace is about opportunity and access. All research over the last 100 years, 50 years, okay? 50 years has shown that in terms of capabilities, there is no difference between men and women. And we have known that World War II, when there were no able-bodied men, is when women came to work in the Western world. Okay, so they were taught how to drive trucks, earth-moving equipment, all of them, right? So it's not as if capabilities or qualities or abilities are different between men and women. No, it's just opportunity and access. So what do we know for corporate India? If we have to really build women leaders for the future, are we giving them challenging assignments? And it's interesting over and over, and this is something I'm calling out to the women, unless you have, and let me close the piece where I said, we have an educational identity. We do not have an employment identity. Even more interesting, we don't think about career identity. What do you want to be 20 years from now? How would you look at your career today? How do you commit to stay in your careers over the next 2 decades, 3 decades? So the moment you start thinking like that, then we begin to ask, what opportunities and access do I need to be able to grow? Clearly, what we know from research is challenging assignments. Yeah. Have you taken responsibility for profit and loss? Have you worked in the marketplace? Have you worked on projects which have customer delivery? These are what we call as hot jobs. Assuming more and more women stay, will they grow? No, my research clearly shows that no, it won't, because growth is a function of challenging assignments, mentors, networks, along with business acumen. Okay. In 2016, just looking at what was happening in the landscape, along with some colleagues of mine, we started a Women in Leadership program. This year, it is in the 5th edition of the program. Tanmatra, that's the name of the program. It's subtle, the essence of being a woman leader. On that program, we have about 150 women leaders just now as I speak to you. And in the last 5 years, many of them have featured on 40 Under 40, have gone on to lead corporations, have gone on to become nominated on technology leaders of the future. So what is becoming very clear is that if an organization wants to groom women leaders for the future, they need challenging assignments, they need mentors, and clearly the Kerala Women Managers Network is an opportunity for peer women to be able to get together and discuss. Is that important? Absolutely important. World over, that's the way to build capacity of women leaders. Last, collaboration and innovation are necessary for continued organizational success. So the kind of questions, are your systems and processes in organizations encouraging women? To the women, are you putting up your hand and asking for opportunities when an organization is looking at opportunities? Are you continuously upskilling yourself to be relevant when the opportunity comes? Do you know where you are headed? Have you done an individual development plan for yourself? Okay. So a lot of these questions are important from both sides. Yeah. So let's do another Mentimeter question. I mean, obviously I'm getting to reflect, and I just want you to think about this. What are the competencies needed to be successful in your careers? Shall I stop sharing, Shweta?
Yes, Professor, one second.
Yeah, just put that up.
Same instructions again. Please use this code.
Nice. Adaptability, be updated, knowledge, passion. What more do you need? Future competencies. We are in a post-COVID world. What more is needed? Being agile, fast learner, very good. Any others? Adaptability, no doubt at all. Some more? Can we have some more responses? Yeah, digital skills, absolutely. Agile, absolutely. Yeah, so the three that stand out as usual is agility, digital skills, and adaptability. Okay, great, great. Thank you, Shweta. Thanks. Okay, so let me kind of go back, and what I will do is just walk through this because I think I have another 5-7 minutes. Will that be okay? Yeah. Okay. So you have those competencies that you've identified in your careers. I'm going to leave another set of competencies for you to think about. Okay. So there is research that says that organizations of the future, and COVID has just accelerated it, this is going to be the future of organizations. There is no escape from this. Okay. So if this is the future of organizations, then what are the capabilities? At some point in time, I will leave this slide with you, right? Please spend some time looking through this. But what I'm going to focus on are those small circles there. Okay. So what are we seeing? Virtual collaboration. Is that something that you're good at? Yeah. Doing it because you're forced to do it is very different from being good at it. Okay. So if this hybrid world is what is going to be in the future, am I good at virtual collaboration? If there is so much of complexity in the environment, and I am going to actually propose solutions, build ideas, do I have a design thinking, design mindset? Am I looking at everything? Cross-cultural competency. We don't even have to talk about it. You don't have to do Western and foreign here and nothing. Just within India, there is enough cross-cultural competency needed. Cognitive load management. So much of information is coming to me on all devices. And this piece from what after the competencies is gender agnostic. Okay. So I'm just coming back for everybody. These are the competencies that are going to be needed for the future. Cognitive load management. I'm getting so much of information. I'm spending so much time on the Zoom. What am I doing with my brain? Am I actually able to process information? How does my decision making get impacted? We know that cognitive load management, the time that you spend in front of the computer and the mobile, has a way of impacting your sleep patterns. Because we are swiping every time and there is a notification, we are kind of compelled to look at it. It diminishes our ability to do deep work, focused work. Okay. So we are beginning now to see the negative implications of technology for managers. Then, of course, there's a whole new media, the social media. How do I actually acquire literacy? Forget about fluency. Fluency is a long way. And you, as one of your learning events, you've also had digital marketing. Yeah, fluency is a different ballgame. Just literacy, because if you have to lead, you need to know. Transdisciplinarity. It's fascinating because last week I was on a panel where an anthropologist has been hired by a mobile company to be able to understand how mobile users could potentially be thinking of using their phones. Imagine a tech company having an anthropologist. Social intelligence. And this is something I want to spend a little bit of time on, because computational thinking and social intelligence. Over the last few years, while I have been researching on automation and also researching on looking at artificial intelligence, two things are becoming very clear. And to all those middle managers in this group, remember that automation routinizes the processes at the bottom. Everything that human beings used to do, it just gets better in terms of a process. So there, as more and more routinization happens at the bottom, and artificial intelligence coming from the top is taking away discretion in decision making. So in some ways, those of you who are in the middle, and when I talk middle, I'm really talking about 9 years to about 20 years of experience, you are going to be worst hit. Okay? Are you upskilling yourself? Are you embracing new ways of working? Are you acquiring generic capabilities to be able to navigate the future? So those are tough questions, but you really need to ask. Yeah. And then, of course, novel and adaptive thinking. And the last one, the most important one, sense making. How do I make sense? And how well have I made sense of COVID over the last 12 to 14 months? I think different organizations have made sense of COVID in very different ways, and therefore have adapted themselves in very different ways. Some have embraced it as an opportunity. Some of them have been threatened by it as a challenge. Now, how then do we make sense in a way such that it allows us to impact positively? My own research, and I have presented this, I think I also must have presented it in the last KMA meeting, clearly sensing came out very, very strongly from my own research. So I think what you are now going to say is that, fine, you've told us all of this. So tell us, what should we do? Okay. So here are some preliminary ideas on what you could potentially do. And why am I framing this in the context of post-COVID? First one, for all of you, this is a question. These are the set of questions that you need to ask. For the women in the room, please ask these questions doubly. Do you know what drives you in your career? There are many of you in this room who are career primary women, which means career is central to your existence, and that a large part of your energy comes out of your career. There are career secondary women, okay, who want to have a career, are very competent at doing at being in their careers, but may not be driven in quite that same way. It doesn't matter what you are, career primary or career secondary, because both of these women are competent and they are performing. Okay. So do you know what drives you in your career? Do you know what kind of roles you want? Do you know what kind of ambitions and aspirations you have, whether you're career primary or career secondary? Okay. What are your strengths and weaknesses? What are the areas that you need to invest on? Particularly, I'm calling out for the women, because I do see in my own work that we don't think as much about these, especially mid-career women. Yeah, because we are just so focused on the double shift that we are doing that we are barely able to keep our heads above the water. Here are more questions. Like I told you today, my job is not to answer, but my job is to actually raise more questions. And here are some important questions as I look at the future. The first and the most important one is, what's your perspective? See, resilience. If there's one thing COVID has taught us, is that resilience is key. You can see the number of people who've been affected by mental health. You can see the number of people who've been unable to come out of depression or have mood swings, all of that. And it just seems to be gender agnostic. Okay, so that's the beauty of it this time. What do we know about resilience? We know that resilience is about perspective and mindset. We know that resilience is about regulating emotion. We know that resilience is about purpose. We know that resilience is actually about connections. And last but not the least, we know that resilience is about how we manage our physical health and well-being. Okay? So here are some questions. I'm going to leave them with you when we share the slides. But are you able to positively reframe negative experiences? Important question. Are you solution driven or are you problem centered? Do you acknowledge your feelings and express them appropriately, or do you just bottle them up internally? Are you able to change your mood when you're confronted with a difficult situation? Do you have a clear sense of what it is that I value? Are you able to get support? And I'll talk about support in a little while. But last but not the least, and this is important for all women in this room, even more so, where does your energy come from? What are those spaces that are yours? Even if you took away 30 minutes, is it in drawing? Is it in reading? Is it in watching television, comedy? Is it in exercising? Is it in yoga? Is it in dance? I don't know. But please, that 30 minutes is precious, is sacred. Because what gives you energy, if you don't do enough of it, what takes away your energy will drain you. And it is here that I call out, just persist in your careers, because I know that women, when they encounter tensions, tend to view the extent of positive energy that they have to the extent of negative energy that is taken away. And they seem to see this as a imbalance, and they opt out. Okay? A bad boss. Yeah, that too shall pass, right? Nobody in anybody's life can have good bosses all their life. At least I have not had. Yeah. So how do you view that and reframe it? Now, if you have enough support networks and you have a good space back at home and you have your own creative pursuits, that bad boss is not going to impact you so badly that you drop out. Okay. So please think about it. Please think about how important each of these aspects are. Next one. What kind of support do I need? And because I'm short of time, I'm just going to close. All of us in our lives need these 6 support structures. Men, women, gender agnostic. However, given that women's networks are not like men's networks, what do I mean by that? Men's personal and professional networks overlap. Women's personal and professional networks are separate. And therefore, you have to go seeking role models. You have to go seeking mentors. You have to go seeking different kinds of support types. Sit down and do an analysis of this. If I'm confused, I want clarity. If I'm alone, I want caring. If I'm in crisis, I want somebody who supports me. If my self-esteem gets dented, I want someone who gives me confidence. If I'm plateauing in my life or my career, I want someone who can push and prod me to say, become cutting edge. Do you have all these support systems? For many of you who are mid-career women or even senior women, think, please think, because use the next few years to be able to build this network of relationships. Okay. Last, how do I take stock? Journaling is one way. If you want to write, write. But if you don't, use your phone and do audio notes. So I find that different people find different ways to do it. Okay. But whatever is this, please do stock taking. And please don't do that during your annual appraisal cycle when you are asked to fill up those forms or the online form. Okay. Please don't do it at that time. That's a terrible time to do it. So if you're doing reflection and journaling about your long-term and your careers, please do it weekly, monthly, but definitely don't do that stock taking at the time of your appraisal. Okay. I have found these questions useful to ask. And in the COVID times, I have realized that a lot of us don't ask, what did I shed this year? Not what did I learn this year? Yeah. I realized that people who hadn't shed things found it so much more difficult in COVID than others did. So what are you shedding? What am I learning new? Okay. So here are some questions for you to ponder. And in these difficult times, I think all of us are privileged. We have much to be grateful for. And that's why I'm asking, what's your legacy? Yeah. Whether it's the man or the woman in the room, what's your legacy? Because at the end of the day, legacy is what drives us in terms of what makes it meaningful. Let me pause here On that note, let me take some questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Vasanthi. That was absolutely, introspective, brilliant, etc. So I'll probably get started with a few questions. I think we have some in the chat box, and so I'll just do a mix and match of it. And I want to come back to something that you started with, which is this whole business case for gender diversity, something that keeps coming up in a lot of the discussions we have. How do you get organizations to be actually convinced about this business case? I mean, there's enough research out there, so I don't think it's a question of research. But somehow I find the mindset, it's difficult to change, or it's virtually impossible. So any thoughts on that?
Yes, I can make one provocative statement. It's all right?
Yes,
yeah?
Please.
Yeah, but then KMA, don't stop inviting me next time after this. Okay. I think, one of the challenges, okay, so why is it that business case is working in most other parts of the world, whereas in India, the same compelling embracing of the business case has not happened? Yeah. I've thought about this question a lot, and I realized that it just has to do with deep patriarchy. Deep patriarchy. Okay, so when I have conversations with very senior male CEOs, right, it's interesting how few of them have spouses who are working. Okay, it's very important. I mean, it might appear to be trivial. And I ask them, how many of them have worked with strong women leaders to whom they reported? And then I asked them, who are the women leaders that they have groomed, who've gone on to become even more successful than them? And wherever all the three are no's, no, Shalini, I have now begun to realize that it's too entrenched patriarchy. So we can't, I mean, to break that is not even in the realm of logical thinking. Okay. So I'm leaving this because now the question is, how then do we actually make it happen? Because it's not anymore, rational persuasion, because by now we should have done that, right? I was talking to somebody, I was talking to somebody in the financial services sector, okay? And it is incredible. The person is telling me that 2/3 of our customer support executives are women. And I asked, how many of your managers are women? And then he said, yeah, we have 2-3 managers. And I said, doesn't it even register to you that, you have 2/3 women and you have 2-3 managers, women. So what is the problem? Yeah. So he says, yeah, women don't stay. So I said, oh, I see. How many of your customer support executives have stayed for more than 5 years? Oh, ma'am, our attrition levels are very low, So clearly, Shalini, you realize that even a business case argument has not penetrated the patriarchy. Yeah. So my concern for India is the fact that if you are a smart business person and you see that you have 70% women who have all spent 5 years or more, what would you do? You would say, I'm going to extend their stay in my company for more years, at least by another 5 years. And the way I can do that is by actually giving them some training and move them to the next level so that I'm assured for the next 3 to 4 years. Wow. I mean, what do you do? Okay. So this is where I'm saying, no, it's not just business case anymore. It's not just quotas anymore. And I'm a strong proponent of quotas. It is no longer just about bring women and everything will crack. No, it's not going to, whether it's at the board or whether it's at senior management or whether it is at entry-level women scientists. So that's why, but I will also tell you one thing, Shalini. One thing, yesterday when our conversations, one of the sociologists was telling me, what is benevolent patriarchy most afraid of? Said, love and care. I thought that was so pronounced. So which means that love, friendship, and care. Okay. And I thought about it, Shalini. I think for a lot of women like us, we have had incredible male colleagues who spent time mentoring, providing us the system. So in some way, yesterday when I heard that professor, I was just like, wow, I mean, what a way to frame this so powerfully that probably that is what we need. And that's why, I'm calling out to male allies so much, because this benevolent patriarchy can only be altered by the people who created it.
Which I think leads me then to the logical next one, which is, men as allies is clearly very, very important, Vasanthi, and I think, I've got the benefit of it as you have. But I think there is a role for the mothers also, and I don't think you referred to that enough. So maybe some thoughts around, what is the role of the mothers?
Gosh, where do I begin also? I don't know, because, sometimes I just I don't know where to begin, because just look at how we bring up our boy child. Look at how deeply women have got gendered. Yeah. Women's craving to have a male child. Then go on to look at how do we actually, rare. We don't let the boy child do anything. Everything goes to the hand of the child. Yeah. So, in some ways it's interesting that women don't even recognize that they are gendering the next generation. Yeah, I wish they did it deliberately. Yes, I want to raise my son like this so that he creates havoc. No. It's just unconscious.
Unconscious, subconscious.
Unconscious, yeah. And that's where, I said that mothers, yeah, people have such a deep role. Women have such a strong role to play in questioning gender. And I think that's something we haven't yet started.
There's another one interesting one in the chat box, which is at the early part of your presentation, you spoke about the fact that each of us should be a champion of social change. So I think the question is from Dr. T.K. Raman. He says, how does this fit into an individual's personal growth? Because going for social change requires you face a lot of resistance. You've got to keep proving it over and over again, and you need guts to face it. So how does one cope with that,
I think, Dr. Raman, very good question. The first one that I'm going to actually start with is saying that if you are playing a role in any way in altering this agenda, you become a social change champion. So my first request will be just embrace that role explicitly and don't be ambiguous about it. Yeah. Just embrace that role and say, yes, my agenda is actually to be able to support, I'm not just calling out on women, any vulnerable person, to provide them access and opportunity. I think a lot of social change hearted people don't unequivocally come out to champion that cause. To me, that would be the first one, that embrace that you are a change champion. Second one is that social change never happens in our lifetime. It's only visible when the next generation begins to refer to what you have done. And therefore, that long-term perspective of doing something today and knowing that you're not going to be able to see those results, I think that is the most important one. I think I just want to take a personal reflection, because a lot of people tell me I'm an academic activist. Initially, I used to be very upset about it. Okay. But over the last 5 years, I realized that if it is about bringing data to the table and questioning beliefs, and if that is activism, yes, I am an academic. My job is to research. My job is to bring data. My job is to show what is which is not what I'm seeing, however unpopular it may make you. But the important thing is to be able to embrace that, because I think it threatens our own identity. Yeah. So therefore, when somebody called me an academic activist, I was very bothered the first time. Now I'm very happy. I sometimes refer myself to that when I want to do something provocative. Okay. And nobody even kind of recognizes it anymore. But it is difficult. I have absolutely no hesitation in sharing that with you, that it is difficult. Yeah. It is not at all easy.
Mother, we have time for another couple of questions.
Yeah, I think you can do that. There's so many questions, at least 2 of them you can take.
Yeah, so I think this one is about the fact that during COVID, there have been, as you rightly said, lots of opportunities for learning, but yet I come across, and I think the chat window also says people still complain about lack of time, and therefore inability to, or unwillingness to invest in learning.
Yeah.
How do you change that mindset? It's a mindset, right, Vasanthi?
Yes, completely. So I think I just give people 2 practical tips. Time is always finite. So every one of us have finite, and knock off 7 hours out of that. So in 17 hours, you will always be short of time. But if something is important to you, you will prioritize. Okay. So which means learning is not important to you, and you jolly well recognize that. I'm okay if you say learning is not important to me. I don't intend to learn. I don't want to learn. But time is a stupid excuse. Okay. And I am quite unforgiving on people when they say they have no time. Okay. And the reason is simple. It means you don't care about your careers. It means you don't care about your growth. Yeah. So that to me is quite honestly done. I mean, there is today, nobody can say that. The second one, people don't know how to learn. And that's something, Shalini, I notice extensively. Okay. So it is to them in the group that I'm addressing who say, I don't know how to learn given the kind of pressure I have. Very simple test when you want to learn. And obviously it's taken me years to refine this. What's your biorhythm? What's your biorhythm? What's the best time of the day for you where 30 minutes is enough for you to ramp up on anything that you want? Okay. For me, it's 5:30 to 6:30 in the morning. Whatever I do between 5:30 to 6:45, right, is equivalent to what it would take me 4 hours at any other time of the day. I have cracked this biorhythm. Okay. Why? Because I have to prepare every day, right, for the class for next day. So this biorhythm is the time when you are at your peak potential and at your peak performance. Prime time. Yes. Don't waste that time. Don't waste that time. Okay. If you have to get up half an hour early, I will get up at 5 o'clock, crack everything. 5:30 to 6:30 is that time. Okay. Why? Because your absorption is the highest. Your brain is at its best. So from just a neuroscience perspective, if you want to learn, that's the time to learn. Yeah. So a lot of people don't know that. That's why.
Yeah. And it's about the mindset, and discipline, as you said, discipline and prioritization. The other one is a more practical question, and we'll probably take that as the last one. How do working mothers who take career breaks ensure that these breaks do not set them back in the career? And I think there is there is a nuance, a responsibility for the organization, but also for the individual. So your thoughts on that?
To respond it from an individual's point of view, because I think that question is coming as an individual.
Yes.
So first one is that, so let me, having taken 2 breaks, 3 breaks myself, I can tell you that sometimes you might have to take a complete break. Okay, when you do a complete break, what do? And this is something I tell people, that when I took a complete break, I went to a school and I taught. Yeah. And I spent about almost 6 months teaching 10th and 12th standard students personal effectiveness. Okay, whatever that meant. But the fact that I stayed in touch, the second one, when you take a break, and if you're forced to take that kind of a break, stay in touch with your friends, even occasionally. Yeah, just drop a text saying, how are you? How are you? Yeah, just catch up with those 3-4 people, but stay in touch. With that one manager who you deeply admired, stay in touch. Just this is enough. And a lot of women, when they break, they take a complete break. then there's no way for you to re-enter, right? So if you take a break and you're doing something else, please stay in touch. Second one, assuming that you're not taking that kind of a break, but you've gone slow, then don't compare yourself with the other. Now, this is where women get into problem. I take a break. I have gone slow in my career. I come back and then say, that gentleman and I were in the same batch. So give me the same grade and designation. Okay? If you were in the same batch and you took 9 months off, come back with a 3-month deficit or a 6-month deficit and make up in the next promotion. Yeah. Now, this is something that women don't seem to see as needing in some ways to be able to say, yes, when I took the break, it was for me. And the opportunity cost of staying in that pace in the career to the opportunity cost of not giving time to my child, just as a cost, okay? The cost of rearing a child is so much more higher than the cost of foregoing 2 increments. So from just a pure financial perspective, assuming that that is what it takes, just look at it like that. And once you are over that period, come back, prove, perform, and keep growing. I don't think there is any organization today in the current environment which will not promote high potential women. Yeah. And a lot of women leaders that I have spoken to have all said the same thing. We came back, took 6 months, and then I was outperforming. And after that, there was nothing, no looking back. And at the time that you're taking the career break, don't think the whole world is coming to an end. Nothing happens because career is for 30 years. And 6 months in 30 years is not even anything to talk about. Don't even think. It's like gone, finished. Yeah, that's all it is. Okay, so don't make such a big issue. Oh, I'm taking a career break and the whole world will come. My career will never come. Nonsense. Yeah, you just took a 6-month break in a 35-year career. Nothing happens. Nothing happens. Yeah, and if you are still in doubt, go and ask any of the women who've taken career break. You'll find hundreds of them. They'll all tell you the same story. Okay? And let me pause there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Vasanthi. That was really interesting. I'll hand it over, I think, to Shobha to do a summary, and then Jomon will do the word of thanks. Shobha?
Okay. Thank you, Shalini. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, Shobha, go ahead.
Yeah, okay.
I think your internet is giving you some trouble, Shobha. So
famous Indian philosopher.
Shobha, can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, just switch off your video, Shobha, and we'll just focus on the audio because I think you're having an internet connection issue.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
Just switch the video off, Shobha, so that it will not take much bandwidth.
The video is frozen, and I think
that's because the data.
I don't think she's able to hear us.
Okay, I think we've lost her.
She's gone. I'll give her a minute. She must have prepared, I'm sure.
Yeah, we had agreed that she would do kind of a summary.
She must have prepared a summary. I would like to deny her that opportunity to say that.
Yeah.
Can you see me now?
We can't see, but you can hear. Wherever you are. Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Okay. The famous Indian philosopher Jiddu Krishnamurti had once said, there is no end to education. The whole of life, from the moment you are born to the moment you die, is a process of learning. Professor Vasanthi Srinivasan's talk, I don't know where to begin. It was so full of wisdom, so full of insights. I'll try to do some justice to it. She set the tone of the discussion with the talk, asking us to reflect on our lives in the last 1 year. And, we all gave our inputs, and patience and spiritual, I think, were one of some of the inputs that came from the audience. And then Professor asked us to, what she concluded is we tend to think of positive events, not negative ones. And agility is the key to success. She described VUCA, which we know, but she gave it a new dimension. VUCA, she expanded to vision, understanding, clarity, agility. So pandemic, of course, pandemic is what is still affecting all of us. And she said,
Okay, we seem to have lost her again, right?
She was trying some tricks with the phone as well as with the laptop, but then both have failed her, I guess, now.
Multifunctional.
Yeah, she was trying out.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, come back, Shobha. We are patiently
Shobha,
waiting.
yeah, try and keep it.
I'm really
Patience
sorry.
is the key today. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So pandemic has affected women the most, and Professor talked about how women are dropping out of the workplace, and she reiterated the pervasiveness of gendering in the workplace and elaborated on the personal, social, and institutional factors which impact women's careers, which differ very significantly from men's careers. Some of the key perspectives she shared with the audience, like each one of us is a role model to someone else. Collaboration and innovation, which are the keys to organizational success. Each one of us is a champion of social change. Challenging assignments, mentors, networks, along with business acumen, are key to long-term success. Going on, one of the most important things which she highlighted was some of the work skills of the future workplace, which was, she had listed as computational thinking, cross-cultural competency, design mindset, virtual collaboration, social intelligence, cognitive load management, and of course, the most important, sense making of all that's happening around us. The professor urged the women especially the women in the audience, to reflect on what drives them in their career, what are their passion, motives, and purpose, strengths and weaknesses, and the areas women need to invest on. And resilience is what Madam described as the key ingredient to success. She described the resilience model, which had 5 dimensions: perspectives, emotional intelligence, values and strengths, connections, and managing physical energy. So I think I'll be brief because of my poor connection. So important questions she urged the audience, especially women in the audience, to reflect upon is the kind of support systems which we have around us. And she urged all the women to build upon the support systems. Journaling or stock taking is a very powerful tool to enhance managerial effectiveness, and which enables us to respond rather than react. And this was a very, very useful tool, which I'm sure all of us can look into. And she ended the talk by listing 5 things we should ask ourselves each year. Like, what did I shed this year? What did I learn new this year? What are the places where I get my energy from? What did I learn new this year for my life? And who is new in my network this year? Very, very important questions, which I don't think many of us think about. And the chat session was also very interesting. She shared her concerns about the patriarchy that is so entrenched in our society today. And she
I think we've lost her again. Shobha?
She's somewhere around.
Can you hear me?
She's there. That's
Yeah.
what I said.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. I think I'll just end. So it was a very interactive session, and I don't think I've done full justice to all that insights Professor had shared with the audience. Thank you very much, ma'am, for a very insightful and very useful talk. Over to you, President.
Thank you, Dr. Shobha. Though you were lost out in between, you fought with your patience and persistence, and you could actually deliver what you wanted to say. Well, what an experience we had. It was straight out of the classroom, and I was like, sitting in the class after a long, long time, listening to the professor. I love that academic activist usage you said. Both you actually displayed the characters of both sides. The academic part, of course, the excellence which you showed, the academic excellence, the insights, the research data, the expertise, everything you shared was on the dot. There was no questions asked about it. That's why I said it was a real classroom session with theory and practicals combined into one. The activist part, yes, the boldness, the confidence, the conviction, the animated energy which you showed, I mean, it's outstanding. But the best part of it I liked about that activist was when you answered that question about, Sariga was asking that question about, when you take a break, when you come back. A usual activist answer is like a very aggressive post saying that, okay, fine, we have our rights, we have to fight for it. But you said it in a very positive manner that, you take your time, you had compromised somewhere, you had your gains, but now you fight your way up. That is exactly what you want, not on a platter saying that, okay, fine, you took this, but still you take that. I mean, let me tell you personally, you asked one more question that, have you worked with the senior, lady manager and whether you have done something to mold somebody who worked with you? Well, I molded somebody who worked with me as my wife also, but then, I gave her the freedom and she also took this break, but then she fought her way back and she is a global head of a division now after 2 kids. So that's also possible. We've given her the freedom when I went my way of doing all kinds of things. That's also possible. Very well done, ma'am. And with people like Ushi and Meera and all those there and giving such comments and so many questions coming in there, that shows the kind of involvement which the entire audience had. Wonderful session, and Madam Shalini, as always, picked out the questions and clubbed them into 1 or 2 and made it into common ones, and it actually pulled out the best out of you. And Dr. Shobha, I mean, though the internet failed you, you also did justice to whatever you're doing. I was seeing her taking those notes and making that summary, and it would have been really sad if we're not giving that patient hearing to her. Thank you so much, and it was wonderful, Madam Vasanthi. We look forward to seeing you personally again in one of the sessions when we are having our conventions or any of the bigger events when this COVID is going to move away. Thank you so much. Before I hand over to our Honorary Secretary Jomon, let me just tell you some of the events coming up. A big event coming up on 22nd, that's on Monday, 22nd March, the next edition of the annual KMA Digital Summit, where we discuss and deliberate on a very contemporary summit theme this time. That is the new paradigms progressing digitally. I mean, in this change scenario, very, very relevant theme, that is new paradigms progressing digitally. There's a sudden transformations happening to the business and professions due to the changes ravaging the whole world. Technology and digitalization have taken the center stage as a catalyst for the evolutions and the related progress seen around. And we have a galaxy of eminent speakers addressing us at the summit on this relevant topic on 22nd. They include Mr. Muhammad Safirullah IAS, the IT Secretary of Government of Kerala, Mr. Mitesh Agarwal, the CTO of Google India, Mr. Ajit Menon, the CSO at TCS, Mr. Rajiv Prakash of Future Group, Mr. Tapan Raiguru, the new CEO of Kerala Startup Mission, Ms. Anuradha Shenoy of BPCL Kochi Refinery, Dr. Kunjaria Isaac of Zyme, and Dr. Saji Gopinath, Vice Chancellor of the Kerala Digital University, addressing our delegates. That's on 22nd, starting at 5 p.m. on the Zoom platform. Please note that date and be there to know about the new paradigms which are actually taking our business and professions by storm. And on 25th March, we have the next edition of the Leader Talk session. That's a lecture series. We have Professor T.T. Rammohan, another from IIM Ahmedabad this time. He's going to dwell on a topic, bank privatization at the end of the financial year. Let's listen to the bank privatization, and of course, very close to our Madam Shalini's domain also. So that is on 25th at 6 p.m. So these are the programs for this month. Now I request our Honorary Secretary in his own style to deliver the vote of thanks. Over to you, Joman.
Yeah, thank you. Respected President Madhav Chandran, Women Managers Forum Chair Madam Shalini Varia, and a very, very erudite, eloquent speaker with a global exposure, Madam Vasanthi Srinivasan. As a guest, we have Madam Ushi, who has enthralled the audience, particularly our student SYMB programs, and of course, the other managing committee members and KMA members who are staying till very end of the session. Extremely nice. 1 hour just went by. So there are a lot of questions in the chat box. And whatever I wanted to say, Shobha Menon, though with some kind of disruption, said, and on top of that, Madhav did mention about the academic activist what I wanted to talk about. So I'm hardly left with anything than to say just a big thank you. Nevertheless, a few words from my side, because somebody asked how to break the glass ceiling. In fact, that was Madam Shalini's first program. Breaking the glass ceiling is a myth or reality. And somewhere I heard a rattling sound. The glass broke somewhere during a session, and you're so aggressive and tapping on the table saying that yes, if that is the case, if I'm giving you data, I'm an activist, and like they tap in the parliament. So that is really nice. Energy is very, very infectious. A great session and new insights, absolutely no doubt about it, on the resilience. Start off with the COVID learnings and then where we find ourselves 5 years from now. And then from continuous learning in between it, naturally the way you are or what you are, the real you came out, and then we shifted to women empowerment, it's quite required, and then came back again on how we should position into the future on the newer domains that we should gain expertise on and be focused on. So first, let me compliment and congratulate Madam Shalini Varia, because she doesn't make a mistake when it comes to picking this speaker. We belong to the same tribe of chartered accountants. In my office, in chartered accountancy, we have only 27%, and we always pray that our tribe thrives, and we work for that as well. So
Sir,
we have
no. Company secretary people have more than chartered accountants. Okay. And I shall send you the article. I just wrote an article for Women's Day. Your numbers are not looking good.
They data again.
Yeah.
So we have only 27% of our membership as lady chartered accountants, which Madam belongs to. But then 43% of our students, who will a vast large number of them whom I mentor as a chartered accountant in training as well. 43% of our students, CS students, are women and girls. So today I think I have to be very brief because you had all the detailed session. So men like Madhav, boys like me have to be brief. So let me conclude once again thanking you for the wonderful presentation. And there's no doubt that I have always firmly believed in two things. One is that the innate latent power which is within, which is not being seen, felt, and then of course these kind of sessions would give the required spark and kindle, and I'm sure that this would tickle a new spirit of enterprise amongst the women, working, non-working, who have taken breaks and all that. The second one is that the great power of overcoming the limitations posed by circumstances is something which we salute the women for. So we're really nice to have such a session again. I think more should come on topics of this kind of relevance and gender equality, all those things. So thank you very much on behalf of all of us here, Madam. And Ma'am, President, the memento is there. Can you unmute, Jojo?
Yeah, you finish off. I'll show it to her. No problem.
Yeah, okay, fine. Sorry.
Here it is. Here it is. All yours. No problem.
I've broken the suspense.
Yeah,
I thought
no
in between the session, word of thanks that would surface. Anyway, some more waiting, ma'am. Just 1 more minute. So thank you, ma'am, once again. Thank you, Shalini, ma'am, President, for lining up the whole thing, and Shobha Menon for that very, very nice roundup. It was actually turned out to be another session itself. That is really nice of you, and all the women there and the men there who are staying back throughout. And then probably, as Madhav said, somebody had sent a message saying that very relevant points, certain points are very hard hitting, and it's really good. It's good to hit hard once in a while. So really nice. A great evening to every one of you, and to the secretariat there, Jojo, and the entire team at the secretariat. for
Thank you.
putting the elements together. So
Prajit,
have a great evening. Stay safe.
A special
Bye-bye.
thanks to Prajit and to Shweta,
Shweta, yeah, Shweta was also there. Yeah,
All of them.
the Mentimeter lady.
Yeah, Mentimeter. That's really nice. Yeah, okay, good.
What
So it's
happened
back
to
to
the
you,
memento,
President. Thank you.
Madhav? The memento
yeah.
didn't turn up on
No,
the screen.
I think Prajit got confused. I don't know whether it should be shown now or then. Prajit, can you just show the memento? It's a signature memento of KMA. Let ma'am see that. Yeah, there it comes. Yeah, this is something which is live, which is a proof of you being here, not in question, at least being there online. You know, the photograph of you making the presentation. It'll come to you. It'll come to you by courier. It's a physical one. It's not an online one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll come to you. It will come
This one
to
is
you.
physical, yes.
Okay.
You thought it is just showing something, a photograph, and saying it's
Yeah, I thought it was virtual memento giving.
It's a real one. It's a signature memento of KMA. It'll come to you. It'll adorn your showcase. Yeah.
It's screened, tested, and then send you away. That's the way we
Okay,
do it.
wonderful. Because I have received saplings that have got planted virtually. So
No, this is not virtual. This is not virtual. This is a real one.
Okay.
So thank you very much, President.
Thank you so much, Vasanthi,
Thank you,
and
Jomon.
thank you very
Thank you.
much. We'll definitely be in touch.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Madhav.
you.
All of you. Thank you, ma'am,
Bye-bye.
once again. And
Thanks.
good night.
Bye.
Stay safe. Be